Tough questions, honest answers, real talk with the City of Oshawa.
Hi, everybody. Dan Carter, the mayor for the great city of Oshawa and the host of Real Talk. I'm excited to welcome you to a unique podcast, and I'm hoping to inspire authentic conversations and topics that are important to you. My hope is that we will address issues that are impacting our province and our country, from affordability to the challenging housing market, homelessness, healthcare. The healthcare challenges continue to come to the surface, and of course, we have a historical opiate crisis at this particular time. The political environment is changing dramatically, and that'll play a role as we have these conversations. I know that the guests over the next year will bring different ideas and different perspectives to the issues that we're facing, so why don't we get started? Since 2016, it's estimated that 46,000 people have died from opiate-related poisoning, and as we sit here today, we're facing the loss of at least 22 people per day across the country of Canada. Municipalities have seen the complexities of a drug crisis, homelessness, unsheltered crisis all unfold, not only in the large cities, but in every community across Canada and the United States. Matter of fact, in the United States, for the very first time, drug-related poisonings outpaced gun violence in 2023 with over 110,000 deaths. Cities and regions are seeking ideas and solutions to try and address the crisis and help those that are the most vulnerable facing addiction and mental health challenges in our community. From our healthcare workers to our police, EMS, fire services, city staff, our faith communities, all are looking at what they can do to help address and make a difference for those that are facing these daily struggles. Today's guest has been a part of the front lines of emergency services for over 20 years and now is charged with the duty of leading the fire services in Oshawa. And as part of this conversation today, he is also having conversations with his counterparts across the country to look for ideas and solutions as we try and address the challenges of today. So, Chief Barkwell, always good to see you. Thank you very much. You became our chief at Fire Services August of 2023, and so congratulate. A year has already passed. How's it gone so far?
Oh, it's great. Thank you for having me today. The first year is always one of the most exciting that you can have in any new position, but it's going well so far.
So talk to me a little bit. You've been in fire services for about 20 years. You've seen a lot of changes over the last 20 years. How does it differ in regards to what you were doing 20 years ago to what your teams are doing today?
So it's actually just under 25 years. And over that quarter of a century, it's been a tremendous amount of change. We've changed response protocols over those years. So what that means is how we assist EMS, how we respond to calls. Initially, when I first got on the job, we responded to almost every medical emergency that you could think of. Over time, the leadership had made changes to that, so then we can now respond to the more emergent calls. Less emergent calls were taking up a lot of time from the services perspective where it wasn't well served. So we were encroaching back in the early 2000s up and around 10,000 calls a year. By changing our protocols, we were able to respond to less calls, but to more emergent calls.
Emergency services are changing dramatically, though. I mean, police, fire, EMS, paramedics that are on the streets. You guys are really taking on new responsibilities and new roles that maybe you traditionally hadn't taken on. And that means different protocols, that means different training, that means different recruiting. So how does the service continue to evolve through this changing environment to be able to kind of meet the challenges that your teams are facing?
Yeah, and that's a great point. Over those years, we have increased our skill level of all of our firefighters. So we now respond to high-angle rescue calls, confined space rescue calls, trench rescue calls, opiate calls. We are trained to use naloxone under our medical authority. We also have recently been certified to do tourniquets as well. As things change in our demographics and in our city, as we want to provide more services and provide more dynamic service.
Do you get people that say our fire services should really mirror what they do in the United States, which is a medical unit and a fire unit kind of coexist within the same facility, but also provide those services? I would imagine you've talked to your counterparts in the United States. There's probably plus and minuses there, and then seeing our system here. Could that work in Canada, or does it work in the United States because of its uniqueness? I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different models. vehicles for deployment for emergency medical services. A lot of services in the United States will have both. A lot of times, say an engine, that's what they call their pumper trucks in the United States, they'll have a paramedic on board. And then a lot of times their ambulance will be for transport only. So that paramedic will get on scene, they'll provide the services they need to, and then the ambulance will transport. We do look at these things. They've been explored over the last number of years here in Ontario. Fire services especially have been looking at upgrading our skills to a point where we can respond to those most emergent calls. One reason being is the location of our fire halls. They're strategically located throughout the cities to provide a response for fire calls. In turn, gives us an advantage.
Are you seeing as you go through the recruiting process, are you seeing paramedics come to fire services? Are you seeing fire services go to be paramedics? Are you seeing that crossover happening here in Canada right now?
Yeah, we do get quite a few applications from paramedics.
And so that's got to be beneficial in regards to your crews, is it not? I mean, having that kind of skill and ability on scene, on top of all the training that your people already go under, I mean, that's got to be beneficial and it's got to be unique to have that opportunity.
Yes, it's a huge benefit when we get on scene and you're able to have that skill set be there on scene when we first arrive. And again, like I said, when we're strategically located, a lot of times we do arrive before EMS.
I know that you heard my intro in regards to the opiate crisis that we're facing across this country, and 46,000 people have died from opiate-related illness across this country since 2016. I think we'll be on another record pace across Canada this particular year. Ontario may see a decrease, but not a significant decrease. I mean, the toxicity of the drugs that we're seeing on the streets, how has that changed in regards to the roles and responsibility of your department? And how is it that you've brought unique ideas and concepts and people to the table to try and meet this challenge?
Yeah, so through the 2020 Fire Master Plan that was adopted by Council, we had approval to roll out this new Rescue 21 truck, and it's a rapid response vehicle. So it's not doesn't carry water, doesn't have a pump. We put our specialized crews on there that now respond, and thankfully to Council's approval of staffing that truck full time, we're able to concentrate on those calls in the areas where it's needed. This in turn takes pressure off the rest of the apparatus in the city. But being able to have that specialized response into those areas is, I think, is an excellent way to kind of think outside the box, utilize staffing and resources where appropriate, but it doesn't diminish the services to the rest of the community.
One of the things that I noticed about your rapid response unit is the crews themselves. And is there a different selection process for those crews that are working the rapid response unit? Because it just seems, in my opinion anyways, there seems to be a different depth to many of them that I've encountered. And maybe it's just my interpretation on, and this is not a criticism of others. It's just I've noticed that they just seem to be very much in tune in regards to this severity of what we're facing today. So was that purposely done, or were these individuals you had just within your organization that really showed that kind of interest and really wanted to be a part of this unit?
Yeah, so as far as selection for the unit, there really isn't any particular selection process. They are just individuals that really have taken to that unit and feel strongly about the issues. It's not unlike we have up at Fire Hall 5, we have a specialty crew for our tech rescue, and they're very in tune with the tech rescue. They do all of our, as I said, rope rescue, confined space, and trench rescue. This crew is specially trained in hazmat as well, though, at Fire Hall 1 on Rescue 21. They are a dual purpose, so although their emergency medical response and their skills in that sense are top notch, they are also hazmat techs and elevator techs.
This particular unit has been very successful based upon the data that you've been able to collect. And if I recall, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of over a 12-month period, close to 3,000 calls that have played a significant role. What have you learned that you didn't know, or what have you learned since this particular unit has been put in place? Have you learned something as a chief to go, wow, I never realized that we would encounter this, or we would experience this, or where we need now to make strategic changes within this unit to be able to meet the challenges of the day?
Yes, one of the lessons that we've learned from having this unit in service for just over a year now is we initially had responses outside of the downtown core or the Fire Hall 1 area that we are considering not responding to those types of calls into the other areas of the halls. Some of them might be some of the non-emergent calls. Again, we weren't anticipating that this this truck would be going to so many emergencies and the need that we're seeing in Fire Hall 1's area at this time. So we have been reviewing that, and we are going to be looking at that over the next period of time.
You've heard me bring this up before, and I mean, debriefing, and one of the issues that I know the International Association of Firefighters talks about is the mental health well-being of your members and what they see and what they have to deal with, which most of us can't even imagine dealing with. Is there mechanisms you've had to put in place for this rapid response unit of the kind of work that they've been doing outside of the normal commitment in regards to the mental health programs you've put in place for all of your crews? Is there an adjustment there, or is it the program seems to work for all that are involved in emergency services?
Yeah, so we put a peer support program into place, and this was going back to 2016. So in 2016, we evaluated, it was really, really high on the agenda for the International Association of Firefighters. And at that time, I was actually a advocate for them. And so we brought forward this peer support program. I myself did some research with Toronto EMS to see what program they have. By and large, they're the largest EMS service across the country. I wanted to see how they were dealing with mental health issues. So I took some of their playbook, brought it back to Oshawa and our members and our staff, and we developed a peer support program that's picked by the members, but they are trained. They are trained members. They're not there as therapists, obviously, but they're there for advice. They have all the tools in the toolbox to allow a member to come in and ask questions, and then they can provide them resources to help them get through their challenges. To your point with the increase in these medical calls downtown, we do know that although it's all confidential, we do know by the numbers that our folks are reaching out to that peer support team, and it is a valuable service to them.
That's really good. Are they, in your opinion, when you look at other emergency services, are they doing enough in regards to understanding the mental health impact that their members are facing? I'm not asking you to criticize them. I'm just asking, in your observation as the leader of this organization, and you look out to EMS, and you look out to fire, and you look at those other emergency services, are they doing enough to make sure that their members have those mechanisms to be able to kind of deal with what most of us couldn't do the job? We just couldn't. Let's be honest with that.
Yeah, and what I've been seeing, it's a really good trend to see over the last number of years is that our mental health benefits have increased, and the municipalities and the regions have really, really put their best foot forward to be able to have those supports for their staff, which has been really helpful, right? As you know, anytime there's a barrier, it's difficult for people to reach out. So when you're talking about mental health especially, I think the more barriers we remove, more apt they're going to get help.
Right. And I think the culture of firefighting has changed, or EMS or policing. I know policing is going under a cultural shift also at the same time. You know, there seems to be an acceptability that you can't, at one time, it was just kind of brush it off and move on. I think there's this cultural shift that's happened to say, no, these are dramatic events that you're dealing with. Yes, you are trained. Yes, you are hired under the guidance of us. We've trained you. We try and support you. But we also have to take away that bravado kind of nonsense and be able to say, first and foremost, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're moms, we're dads. We're affected by this too. So I think the bravado and the cultural change is happening. You've seen a big cultural change even in firefighting. You have more female firefighters today than I think historically you've probably had in the whole organization for years.
Yep. No, and we see those demographic shifts happening. We also, to your point, the cultural shift is happening. We see captains now, after a traumatic call, taking the crew aside. What we actually will do is take them out of service for a period of time. They'll drink water. They'll do a bit of exercise. Some people may see a basketball net at some of the fire halls. Playing basketball. That's for those instances where they come together as a team after going to those traumatic events. They work off those bad chemicals, as we all know, when you're in that flight or fight situation, work them through their system, and that too, in turn, will help with their mental health.
So let's talk about the initiatives across the country. I mean, the city of Oshawa and municipalities all across this country are facing an opiate crisis. I would imagine a lot of your colleagues are dealing with what you're dealing with, and in some circumstances, it's either less than or more than in their communities. Are you guys sharing information? Are you sharing best practices? Are you being innovative as chiefs across the province to be able to say, what do we need to do different in regards to being part of the solution of this major health crisis?
Yeah, and when we look at issues that face us in the fire service over time, we do come together, we do meet, we do talk about the issues. In particular with the opioid crisis, one of those solutions was going and trying to get these rapid response vehicles for firefighters to be on scene. Again, going back to being strategically located is what really helps us with our deployment of firefighters, and for emergencies personnel to be on scene in those initial minutes where it is so crucial with those opioid poisonings.
Are the chiefs having an opportunity to have a voice at the provincial level? I mean, this provincial government, and all indications of what I've heard with fire services, they've been investing quite heavily. But are the chiefs of Ontario, you having a voice with the province to be able to say, hey, this is what we're dealing with, and here are some of the things we're doing innovative-wise, and here are some ideas that we could bring to the table to be part of the solution?
So that issue in particular with the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs, they do have conversations with the government all the time, with Premier Ford. We do have a great relationship, to your point, not only from the Chiefs Association right into the Labourers Association with the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association, and we are looking for solutions. I know we have great relationships with the provincial government, so anytime we can sit down and discuss these issues that are happening is of a tremendous advantage. And the more people you can get at a table to discuss these and have good, fruitful discussion on these issues is the better.
You've been able to accomplish being a fire chief of a large fire service, over 200 members?
234 now.
234 members. Did you ever think you would get to this place, or did you always know you were going to get to this place?
That's a good question. No, obviously I've been born and raised in Oshawa. I believe in our community. I believe in the resilience of our community, and I was hopeful I could give back to Oshawa in some regard. I worked very hard in the service and brought new programs forward that's hopefully benefited our citizens in Oshawa, but it was always a goal of mine. I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I can serve.
Do you come from a fire family?
My uncle was a firefighter.
What do you want to accomplish? I mean, as a service, what do you want to see for your men and women that you represent?
So from my perspective, we follow, there's 3 lines of defense in the province of Ontario for fire safety: education, enforcement, and suppression. That's the mitigation side. So for my folks, I want to ensure that they're educated. And we use that model in fire prevention, but I think we need to use that model in investment into our people. Education is key. We did just over 20,000 hours of training with our suppression folks last year, 500 in communications, another 700 with our prevention folks. I think those things it makes their reactions, and it builds their skill sets, and it gives them the confidence to provide the best service possible. And I know our people truly do believe that they can do that, and they want to do that. So in supporting them in their positions, I think we're going to achieve that. And they keep believing that they're doing good work for our community, and to be able to support them is key to me. I feel moving forward, if we can continue to support our folks in those ways, providing them good equipment to work with, again, going back to the training is key. And also the supports. Knowing that we support them in what they do in their daily work is tremendously appreciated by our folks. I know that. And going forward is to continue that, but also to look at other ways that we can be innovative in our service, providing a better service for our community. I think there's probably some new ways of doing things that we're going to explore in the future. And again, it will support our folks in doing so.
The fire training center that you operate here locally is a unique build for the fire services. Has that been beneficial in regards to your people having different scenarios to be able to work on consistently, to be able to see the changing environment of what you're facing on a regular basis? Has that helped?
Yes, tremendously. I think we went a lot of years without a training facility. We had the investment just over 2 years ago. We started the project, closed out about a year and a half ago.
But do me a favor, take a moment and just talk about this, because this unique build was really different. It's not a cement barrier. It's almost like a Lego set made out of containers that is being designed as a training facility for fire. Is that a fair kind of description?
Exactly. It was. It's constructed out of sea cans, but they are evaluated by engineers and designed according so they are buildings. The good thing about them is we were able to put. It's a multi-use prop. So we do have 2 burn rooms. We have one on the main floor and one on the second story. So that way we can practice basement fires. We can have different locations for the fires for the firefighters to go in and do their search and rescue. There's also an area where they can actually remove the walls and place them in different areas. So that way they can go in, we can change it up on them. It's quite unique so they don't know the maze, let's say, every time.
But that's unique about this training facility. It's not a standard build where after about the 6th time going through, the wall's there. You guys have the opportunity to change those walls, and then that's a challenge in regards to how firefighters are being able to be trained differently.
Yeah, exactly. And this prop also allows us to do confined space training. Our rope rescue team trains on this tower. The great thing, and it gives me a sense of pride because I was highly involved in that project, is having folks from other communities coming out to tour it and seeing how unique this facility is.
Did you team up with Durham College in regards to an AI program in firefighting and how you can give firefighters a different experience within an environment? Yeah,
through Teaching City, we worked with Durham College for a virtual reality training program. And what they use are the Oculus devices from, I think it's Facebook. They have these devices, and they've developed a program where you can go in, you build all the walls you want. The walls do have texture to them, so they could be partially burned or charred. They actually have sounds of nail pops. They have the sounds of a fire burning. And then another layer is they actually have smoke that will go down to the floor. So I was lucky enough to be able to try this out a few weeks ago. They unveiled the sort of finished product, and it was amazing. I was in the room, had the headset on. You can hear the fire crackling, and you have the visibility limitation of the smoke. It really pushes you down to floor to do that search. And there's actually a component where you can have a mock victim in there that you can actually grab and pull out, and it's all in your headset. I could see those types of trainings in the future, although they won't replace our tangible hands-on training, but supplementation of that in some of the months where we can't flow water or do some damage to our equipment, we can bring it indoors and do some of those search and rescue scenarios.
It's amazing how AI is playing such a role.
It's unbelievable. When they showcased this to me, I was like, wow.
Just out of curiosity, do you use drones at all in regards to an evaluation of a fire scene? Is that type of innovation, is that actually in place?
So we've explored that here in Oshawa. Some fire services do have drones. We haven't adopted it yet. One reason being is I know Durham Regional Police Services has drones, and we've been in discussions with them being able to utilize theirs. But to your question, we did utilize Ontario Power Generation's drones to do a quick search of an abandoned building that we had that was destroyed in a fire.
Was it beneficial when you guys got the opportunity? Because you could see things you couldn't see.
That's right. They dropped the drone right into the house. It was structurally unsound, so we couldn't put anybody in person. And it went all the way through the house, did a quick search for us.
Chief, I really do appreciate the opportunity to be able to sit down and chat with you in regards to not just about the rapid response unit, your work as a chief, talking about how you're preparing your people and caring for your people at the same time, but also having this conversation about, where fire services is heading. I really appreciate the service you and your folks bring, not only our city, but all across the province of Ontario and Canada. I know that Oshawa Fire Services also has mutual aid with other services in the area, and you help out there. So we're grateful for that.
Thank you for having me.
I know, of course, we're going to keep these conversations going, and I hope that all of you are enjoying these conversations. One of the ways you can join us on a regular basis is subscribe to Real Talk Oshawa on Spotify or on Apple. All these episodes will be released on a monthly basis, so we want to make sure that we keep the conversations going. And we just want to say thank you to our guests that join us on Real Talk here in Oshawa, and we look forward to our next conversation. Like I continue to say, as long as we're talking, we're going to find solutions. So till next time, I'm Dan Carter. Stay well. Thanks for joining us. All the best.